So I think the tagline for this movie is an American horror story. Like, really? Rebuilding New York and creating thousands upon thousands of jobs is a horror story, not, Harvey Weinstein, Ted Bundy, people that murder people. Okay. Chase Lee Hockey here with the Blue Futon reviewing The Apprentice. So what's this about? Pretty simple premise. This is Donald Trump in the 80s and 90s, how he started, especially with this lawyer, Roy Cohen, if not mistaken, and what he did to take Donald Trump under his wings because his dad won it in some type of lawyer case. Anyway, and now we are here today. So to like this film, I wasn't the biggest fan of this film. While I cannot say that there are interesting aspects to it, it is the writer. It is the writing, which I'm just like, for a fact there's a purpose for this film, especially when you have the tagline American Horror Story, as well as just what the writer has done and his political leaning through and throughout. With the director, he's an Iranian director who doesn't have an American citizenship, so he can't even vote. And I think he tried to keep it even because it's not like this was a knife deep in the chest for Donald Trump, but there were some scenes where you're like, really, did that have to be input into this movie? So it's all the positives. Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong are fantastic in this movie, even though I think Jeremy Strong as an actor takes his job way too fucking seriously. Just some of the quotes he says after like this and Succession, you're just like, dude, it's a job. You play make-believe. Simmer down, brah. Simmer down. And Sebastian Stan does a great job playing a kind of a innocent Trump and a non-innocent Trump, if you want to put it that way, because this puts Trump in a light where he never drinks. He never smokes. There is a scene where he drinks in this movie. I don't know how real that is because Donald Trump did say he never drinks because of his brother dying because of alcoholism. So that scene, I really don't believe that actually occurred. And there's a lot of, let's talk about the positives, though, because the writing is the really issue I have with this movie. The look of the movie. It looks fantastic. It looks 1980s. It looks 1990s. It has that gritty New York look, that style of film, the editing, the color grading. Like, that technical aspect of the film, you cannot deny it's freaking good. And like I said, Sebastian Stan, also a fantastic job. So, like I said, the director, I think, does a good job of, like, having the look of the film. The look of the film is freaking spot on. That's what I'm going to say about the technical craft of this film. What I have, like I said, is the writing. Let's dive deep into the writing now. There are just some scenes in this movie where for a fact are fake. And then when you have the writer on a magazine article saying, I put this in the movie because it's completely true. Well, the Ivanka quote-unquote rape scene, even Ivanka Trump said it never happened. But they still put it in the film. So there's things like that. Also, the whole fake cufflinks. Apparently, that is true. However, if you're gonna try to still stay real with the story, it was a Bulgari box instead of a Tiffany's box. So there's little details like that where if you know for a fact it was in a Bulgari box, not a Tiffany's box, and you can't put it in the film, there's little red flags for me because it's one of those things where you exaggerate things, right? Where you're just like, I swear to God, I went 300 miles per hour, but you might have went 120. It's still messed up, but why exaggerate it if something really did happen? I have an issue with that, especially with the box. Like I said, it's the little things. If the little things are the things that like did Trump really walk in on Cohen having butt sex? No clue. Did he really drink? No clue. Did he really hold Don Jr. and Don Jr. started crying and Trump's like, well, I guess the baby doesn't even like me anymore. It's just little subtle jabs like that where you're just like, I don't know if I could appreciate the story. And like I said, what this writer has done, he's anti-Fox News, he's anti-Republican. So he has a leaning when writing this script. So it's hard to take this script seriously. Because like I said, they're like, oh, everything this movie, all the bombastic shit is real. But when you actually dive a little bit deeper into it, it's not as real as you think. Or there are things where you're just like, but that was debunked, but you're still putting in the movie. That was debunked, you're still putting in the movie. That was debunked, but it's still in the movie. Like I said, the rape scene, quote unquote, even if Ivanka Trump never said, like like it's a little. You could call it a little bit jabby if you want to put it that way, because she might have said in the beginning, but then like later she recanted saying that never really happened. It's called. People bring it up when I do another Trump movie, the Park 5, where he put it ad in the movie or in this paper play, like sent them to death, but it had nothing about race or gender into the ad. But if they, said they did it, and then Trump just read the paper and it says they're guilty, and he puts an ad in, is it really that messed up? And I'm going to say no, because it's a public figure just reading a newspaper. So there's things like that as well in this movie. Like I said, there's that scene, the alcohol scenes, the liposuction scenes, and the hair implant scenes. There's absolutely no evidence with that. There's hearsay, she said. And at a point, it's like, why do you have to put it in this movie? Because you're like, oh, it's a Frankenstein scene and things like that. But like I said, I think the director did a decent job of having innocence to it, because Donald Trump really was out of his league when going to these big parties. Like when he was collecting rent for his father, he really didn't like that. When he went to these parties with Rocco with all these bombastic people doing sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of things, he just wasn't a fan of it. And I understand that, and they put that innocence to it. And I think the director does a good job saying, like, look, after people watch this movie, they're a little bit mad at him for being not left wing, one way or right wing. If I put it that way, he was kind of be more neutral. But again, you are kind of being more neutral to an extent of being more anti-Trump, because there are scenes in this movie where you're just like, you don't know if that's happening, or you don't know if it's true, and you don't know if the dialogue is true. And there's people saying, well, if Trump's lawyers are suing the film, it must be true. It's like, not the case, because, I mean, the Russia hoax, Hillary Clinton putting her own money into it, lying about documents, and only had to pay a $8,000 fine, the FCA, or, the P-tapes, or, R51 intelligence agencies saying the Biden laptop was false. It wasn't false. So there's things like that where I'm just like skeptical when it comes to journalism nowadays, of like, especially Washington Post now, where they're like, we are bipartisan. And then they don't endorse the president, but the journalists and reporters of the paper, how dare us not endorse Kamala? It's like, but I thought you're nonpartisan. And I do think no newspapers or no news organization should be endorsing presidents, because that's not your job. Your job is to report the news, not endorse people. So I do have an issue with that as a whole. But The Apprentice, again, like I said, I watched everything in movie theaters, and I cannot deny the craft of this movie, the action of this movie, the look of the movie. It's top notch. It's well directed. You cannot deny that. The directing is top notch. And like I said, there's going to be this, we know what this movie's made for. It's made for the people that probably hate Trump more, especially when you have the tag like an American Horror Story. And I'm just thinking, like, really? That's the horror story, is making New York kind of what it is today, because it was in the shitter. And there was a couple like lawsuits in this thing, like the blackmail scene. Of course, that I heard was false. The NAACP, I don't know if that's actually true, because at the same time, Trump housed the Rainbow Coalition for free, Jennifer Hudson for free. So like I said, there's just so many things where you read it and then you try to find the fact versus fiction, and the only articles you could find is very biasy anti-Trump. So this is what it is. Like I said, you can say it's about vindicating Trump. You can say it's about the man you don't know. You can say about this Apprentice. Yes, there's biases on all sides. And when I'm looking at a movie like this, I can't deny the directing, but I could deny the writing, which is very biased. So The Apprentice will receive a 2.5 out of 5 with Futon. So he goes at 50%. So let's see the critics and user scores gave this one. So critics at 81% with 210 of them. Audience score 84% with 250. And I'm pretty sure this is not going to make its money back whatsoever. Critic consensus: instead of a cross-examination subject, The Apprentice gives Sebastian Stan the chance to shine in a simplistic yet entertaining forte into the world of young Trump. Yeah, you can say the pacing's well. But it's also one of those movies where, do I really want to watch again? And probably not, especially with the time I have on this earth. But like I said, there are moments of greatness in this film. But I think the latter half of this movie, it gets sped up in the third act, especially when the HIV thing comes into play. And it just goes a little too, he's like, come on, let's tell the story a little bit more cohesively. But this review probably isn't cohesively anyway. And it's one of those things where you gotta know your faults. And this is one of them. 50, 84, 81. Chase Slack here at the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if this Blue Futontopia. You Blue Futonians, thank you for watching. Have a great day. I can watch this tape tomorrow. Week time author and uniform. Just go freaking one of you. And I'm putting this out probably November 4th because you know it's happening November 5th. Just vote. And just vote for the future, not for the now, if you want to put it that way.